Deception is best used when not obvious. Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Zach, the Wretched Watchman, and I'm bringing you a little bit of news of the aftermath of the whole selection process that we just had going. And so I'm pretty sure everybody in the world, apparently even including the Amish, have heard that Trump was selected to be in there, or elected, depending on how you view these things. But ultimately, the truth is he was selected to be in there. And so I'm going to bring a little bit of news of what's going on with this. Now, I'm not going to start, going over all the things that he's done. I've already done just hours upon hours of video pointing to factual evidence about these things, and people are still saying that he's against abortion and against the alphabet agenda and doesn't want to divide Israel and stuff like that. And I've proven time and time again that those are all lies, and anybody who still believes those lies aren't actually looking for facts themselves. They're just going off of either what they've told themselves or what their favorite person has told them, who obviously hasn't gone and checked these things either. So we're not going to be going through any of that stuff, but I do want to just take a look, and just as we go into this time here, transition time, this new time, however you want to look at it, about what it goes on with deception. And so I started this whole thing out with the introduction of deception is best used when it's not obvious. And, the thing is we have so many people in the prophecy community that have for years been shouting about the deception and the lies and stuff, while just pointing straight over at the left, and they're sitting here celebrating Trump and the reprieve that he's going to bring, and how we can all get comfortable again, and the economy is going to be good, and we have all this time to do this and that. But these are also the same Christians who will sit there and say that easy times create weak men. And the thing is they're celebrating the easy times. And so I see a lot of people who really aren't going to take this opportunity as a time to go out and share the gospel with as many people as we can, because there's no pressure, according to what they're saying. And I'm hearing all the things that Trump's going to do from the Christians. He's going to stop the censorship. He's going to bring down the New World Order. He's going to stop all the wars. He's going to single-handedly save Israel. He's going to take out all the corrupt leaders. He's going to drain the swamp and get rid of the deep state. And he's going to get rid of the Federal Reserve. And he's going to do all these things. And I'm sitting there going, how? He actually contributed to all of those factors back in the day. And how on earth is he going to do it this time? Because he's got a giant team of technocrats behind him. That's possibly what's going on. It's just fascinating to me how we really live in a deceptive world right now, where people just don't want to look beyond anything that they're comfortable with, and so they celebrate the comforts that supposedly he's going to bring in. Now, I've made it known since early 2024, when we entered into this new year. So back at the beginning of 2024, I said there's three possible outcomes that I believe were going to happen with the selection. I said, one, something catastrophic is going to happen, and they're going to get canceled. I was hearing a lot of that, and I wasn't really there, but I was like, it could be. So I just kind of threw it in there. I didn't really think that was going to happen. Two is Trump would get selected, and then they would eliminate him in some type of way, remove him, kill him, whatever you want to do, type of thing. And that's, still kind of in the cards now, but I just don't see it. And the reason why I don't see it is the third option, is because they have poured so much time, so much effort, and so many resources into him, as well as they have built this entire trust campaign for him over the past, since basically 2016, all the lawfare, the quote unquote assassination attempts, and how all the world leaders are speaking out against him, saying he's such a bad person, he's going to tear us down, and all that type of stuff. And so they have done that, as well as made the left platform so extreme by choosing the most dim-witted, just utterly stupid people that they could as candidates to go out there and spew the most evil, vile, extreme things that they can, which has only generated so much more following for Trump. At the same time, they are creating an asset that is just so, they've put so much effort into, that I just don't see eliminating them. And so what does this do? Well, this allows allows him to go and operate and start implementing these agendas in deceptive ways, whether through different names or whatnot, but they're the same as the globalist agendas. And all of the people that are so enamored with this man, including the Christian church, are just going to follow along with him. They're not going to question him too. And so I believe that he's going to be, he's been being prepared as the dictator. Now, that doesn't mean that he's not going to go in there day one and start, putting down the Iron Curtain type of thing. But I believe that through a deceptive, slow burn, I think this is absolutely what's going to happen, especially since he's got the team of technocrats behind him. Now, I talked about this trust thing, and I forgot about this. I forgot about this until recently. But do you guys remember the name of the Davos meeting, the World Economic Forum Davos meeting back in January of this year? The theme was rebuilding trust, which is interesting because that's all they've been doing with Trump. Connecting names to him, making excuses for him, all of the lawfare, the assassination, stuff like that. Every single one of those things has built trust into this man who everybody is just under this illusion that he has nothing to do with the Luciferian global cabal. And again, I have done countless hours of evidence that points that he is wittingly involved with this. And so I just find it fascinating that rebuilding trust, everybody was looking at that, laughing at it, going, how on earth are they going to rebuild trust? We don't trust in any of the globalists out there. That's never going to happen. Well, the best way to use deception is in a not obvious way. So you bring in a person who's supposedly anti-globalist, you build the trust behind him and allow him to just go about doing the globalist agenda that they want him to do, just like he did back in 2016. But again, what do I know? And now going back to his team, and I posted this on my Telegram and whatnot. This is meet your new rulers. These are the people that are behind Trump, that are that have been involved with Trump and his dealings for quite a while, ever since his first administration. And it's Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, the techno boys, and they're involved with things like PayPal and X.com and the military industrial complex with Palantir, as well as we know Peter Thiel is basically built up and handed JD Vance over to Trump with this whole thing. So he's just a puppet as well. Vance is not his own man. He's just a stooge and all this, who's also involved with funding bio altering drugs, Amplified Bio, and as well as things like Rumble. They've been funding Rumble, both Peter Thiel and JD Vance, which of course we know Rumble is basically Trump's own personal media outlet. All the hired influencers that are there to promote Trump, as well as Rumble is now running Truth Social TV and their video services. So that whole thing is involved with that. But again, no, that's all good stuff, right? We got excuses. It's all positive, and all that type of stuff. I always go by bad stuff is only bad when it's not being used against your opponent. It's the same thing where we scream facts don't care about your feelings, when in reality, most of the people on the right side who are saying that also don't care about the facts if it hurts their feelings too. And they're also ones that claim to be the most awake as they continue to pound on and throw their fist up for another globalist who's going to be taking the spot. It's absolutely mind-boggling to me. Now, if you're one of those people watching this and you're still on board with this, I don't know. There's not much else I can do. It's not my responsibility to try and change your mind. I just pray and hope that you will be open to seeing what's going on with this. But I always go back to this quote from Vladimir Lenin. It says, "The best way to control the opposition is to lead it ourselves." And for some reason, everybody agrees with that unless it's Trump. And I'm sitting there going, how on earth did Trump go from bankruptcy, being bailed out by the Rothschild family, and somehow manage to bypass all of the deep state people to get into office, which we know that's probably one of the hardest things you can do, especially since the same people who promote the deep state as this absolutely just brick wall that nobody can get through, Trump managed to do it, and then hired all these deep state people for his office, and now have more deep state people within his administration this time. But yet he's not somehow controlled leadership. Again, Vladimir Lenin, who's talking about the best way to control opposition is to lead it, is the same person who helped establish Operation Trust back during the Bolshevik Revolution, which basically had everything to do with taking control of the narrative, taking control of the media, and taking control of leadership back in the day, all in the name of communism. But again, somehow Trump is not a part of that. And then I've talked about in the past where Trump, I brought up his connection to Epstein, and everybody says, no, just because there's pictures, just because he's on the logbook, just because of this and that. Yeah, that has nothing to do with it. Well, I've also heard the same thing with Trump's connection to Diddy. And we know all about what's going on with Diddy now. But again, people who support Trump will somehow wipe that away, just whisk it away, because none of that means that he actually has any connection with the Luciferian cabal. For somebody who's not involved with the Luciferians, he sure has quite a few relationships. His entire world is surrounded by the Luciferians. That must be hard. And yet, through all of this, it's been a failed assassination attempt. Not buying it. Not buying it. The whole thing has been there to build trust because he is in the club. And he's building a team to help bring about, in his own words, the new golden dawn, the new golden era, new golden dawn of this. And we've seen jackets back in the day with Elon Musk, where he has the old Latin saying for the new world of new age of new order, something like, I can't remember. It's the same thing that's on the dollar bill. It's written in Latin. I know it, but I don't have it off the top of my head. I can barely speak English, as you can tell. But he wore a jacket in the Met Gala back in like 2018, I think. And now he just posted something after Trump's victory with him and Trump standing there with the same thing, new era. But this is where things really seem to get lost when it comes to Christians. We often talk about how our fight's not against flesh and blood, but against the spiritual. But yet everything that we focus on when it comes to Trump has to do with everything in the physical, whether it's the economy, whether it's the team he's bringing in, the censorship and stuff. Everything has to do with that. But we always lose the transition of, or often gets lost in transition, has to do with the spiritual element, because what we got going on right now is darkness is being brought in a display of light. The evil agenda is getting brought in the display of light. They always try and do it some type of way, whether it's for safety or security or convenience or whatever. That is a darkness being brought into the light. But with Trump is probably the biggest one so far, where because he seems to want to bring in all this good stuff, all in the name of light, when it actually is bad stuff. You know, one of them has to do with the financial system. Everybody's talking about how he's against the CBDCs and stuff like that. But keep in mind, he's for stable coins, which is basically the exact same thing. The only thing is it's controlled by the private sector. Now, when I go through history, when the government gets involved with the private sector, there's a word for that actually the leftist has been using for Trump for quite a while, which seems fitting now. It's called fascism. Where if you ask Benito Mussolini, he says fascism should best be called corporatism for its connection of government and private, government and corporate. Which we see that going on. Look at Larry Fink and BlackRock. We look at Vanguard. We look at all these different private sectors out there. And they're all working in conjunction with the government. But the thing is Trump wants the exact same thing. He just wants to do it in a different name, in more of a positive spin. Why? Because people are more inclined to believe it and follow along and accept it. And when things aren't looking too good and looking a little bit grim, they'll excuse it and point blame towards somebody else, usually who has a D next to their name. See, the biggest deception that's really been pushed a lot that I've seen recently has to do with the fact that everybody thinks the deep state is just another name for Democrat. That's not true. That's not true at all. But then they make the excuse of, well, just the bad Republicans are the rhinos. See, they're always trying to justify it in some type of way because they want to hang on to something of this world. They want to hang on to something left of that illusion, of the ultimate delusion, the deception of what's going on with politics. Now, that's just, again, more just comfortable lies to ourselves in order to hang on to the idea, the illusionary principle that we have somewhat of a voice or control in really what's going on out there when we don't. See, the deep state isn't just another name for Democrats. No, actually, Democrats and Republicans are folded into what is known as the deep state, both of them. But the right truthers and a lot of the prophecy guys out there are saying that it's only the Democrats. and the rhinos that are the deep state, when that's not true at all. See, they call it the deep state because it's not just a state, it goes deep. And it's all powerful unless it's Trump, who somehow manages to trump over everything. But back to the spiritual thing. He's talking about bringing in the golden era. He's talking about bringing in the new era of world order and all these types of things. And we know that right now when you get into the whole new age belief that we're entering into the age of Aquarius and whatnot. But let's hear from somebody, and I think this is fascinating, whose name is Marina Abramovic. That's not exactly how you pronounce her last name, but she's the spirit cooker. She's the witch, the Satanist. She was promoted by Zelensky in order to reestablish some things like schools and whatnot in Ukraine and whatnot. She's also involved heavily when it comes to Hollywood and the elites and governments and all this type of stuff. She's the witch that travels around and does all the magic and the in-between. With the Satanism and whatnot. She's also best friends with the Rothschild family. You can find pictures of her out there standing around with some of these people like Evelyn D. Rothschild and whatnot. So she's fully wrapped up in this. I'm sure you've heard of her before. She's very, very, very evil, a very evil woman. But she had some interesting words back in 2018 regarding Trump, specifically from the Shaman Dreamers. Let's hear from her.
You know, I just to share with you one really funny opinion. But there is in Lapland, there is a group of the shamans there who do something called collective dreaming. They will go together in seclusion and do the rituals with, eating very little food and being in a solitude for a long time. And they will go and dream the dreams. And the dream have to be collective, same dream. So coming out of this dream, once of the shaman told me that actually the best thing happened in this planet right now is the Trump to be the president. I said, how is this possible? It's the best thing to happen. He said, yes, because he's so irrational, he's so crazy. That's actually create that awakening, that we finally wake up. Because before it will be another guy and everything looks similar. But he's so different than anything else. So he's the magician who waking us up. But look at these two guys, Trump with Kim Jong.
Kim Jong.
They're two lunatics, completely horrible human beings, corrupted, and we don't like them because there are lots of good reasons not to like them. I just talked to I was in Rome 2 days ago, and I met one shaman woman from the north of Norway. So this woman told me 3 days ago that the Trump is the best thing happened ever to us. Because she believed, not her, but the entire population of this Nordic magician, that he is the magician of the highest order. That he is there in his irrational mind to create confusion in order that the human being can find new order. And it's not so stupid thinking about this in that way. It's completely turning things upside down. Because since Trump is around, things are changing. Because we are waking up.
Because we are waking up. The Great Awakening. Fascinating how even with the age of Aquarius, it's going to be the age of conscious awakening. We've also seen things when it comes to the Q movement talking about the awakening of the world, and we talk about a shift in the consciousness through awakening. We see things like the Great Reawaken Tour, Reawaken America Tour, which is all grounded in that New Age belief of awakening. And it's fascinating that she's talking about this witch. She's talking about these shaman dreamers that talk about how he's the best thing to happen to us because he's the magician of the highest order, which I always find fascinating because if you go to the Church of Satan, the highest title within the church is Maga, or the high priest. Now, people think that that's a tier list, and actually the Church of Satan has come out and said, no, it's not a tier list. You can't initiate your way in and work your way up. No, these are titles that are given to you. So that means MAGA must have been given to Trump. And at the same time, Marina here is talking about the shamans have said he's the great magician of the highest order. I also find it fascinating that Elon Musk comes out and says it's dark MAGA, or the dark magician, that's going on with that, which is interesting because in that second clip, you see Marina's in a cab that's a Tesla. Just thought that was interesting, connected to Elon Musk there. But yes, this awakening, this wake up through his irrationality and his chaos. He's able to flip things up through confusion. Who's the author of confusion? Now, in no way, shape, or form am I saying that Trump is the Antichrist, because I don't believe that for a second. I know a lot of people do, but I don't believe it. But that does not mean that Trump is not here in order to get things ready for when the Antichrist does come onto the scene. The spiritual element to this is fascinating, because even the witches and the shamans and the Church of Satan all have somewhat of a connection to Trump in some type of way. And you guys know me, I speak out often against sensationalism. I'm not big into like the whole numbers thing and trying to make things fit or whatnot. But you also know that I don't believe in coincidences. And when there's so many things that all seem to be pointing to these directions, you can't overlook that. I think it's very, very interesting. Especially since he's got a team of technocrats behind him that have been involved, that are getting ready to, through Trump, install beast system agendas, policies, and technology here in the United States. And people who support Trump are going to willingly go along with it. All I'm saying with all of this is there's going to be a lot of deception coming, even more than we've already seen. You're going to probably see some moves that may look good on the outside, but ultimately there's something much darker going on underneath. I just certainly hope that the Christians will take off the MAGA glasses to try and at least attempt to see it. Guys, I'm going to be honest with you. While most of the prophecy community is celebrating what's going on right now, I have a feeling of something dark and heavy right now. And it has nothing to do with, politics and whatnot. No, the ramifications afterwards, though, there's something spiritually dark that's moving very, very quickly now. Very, very quickly. I can't explain it. I just have this feeling. But I could be wrong. Lord Jesus, come soon. I'll catch you guys next time.